Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, we're going to be talking about the issue of trust. Not only trust in relation to specific romantic relationships scenarios, but trust in relation to yourself. So I've got a fantastic guest. Her name is Jessa Packard. Welcome, Jessa.
Thank you, Lyn. It's such a pleasure to be here. And welcome to all of your listeners. Thank you also for being here.
Absolutely. We're so grateful that we've got those people that we can help and make a difference to, because we make a difference by helping them make a difference, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So the actual topic of trust, Jessa, first of all, before we delve deeply into it, I think you've got a phenomenally great current story that is very apt for this particular topic. So would you mind telling the listeners a bit about yourself and your story?
Of course. So I am Jessa Packard. I'm a single mom of two sweet little boys under 5 years old. And I have had one hell of a ride the last couple of years. I'm currently going through a divorce that is not a pleasant one, and was married for about eight years. And my journey began about 2019 when I started doing my own certification for life coaching, because I wanted to help others transform their lives and also help my relationship, which was fairly difficult. But over the course of 2019, there were things that kind of unfolded, leaving me to feel broken, shattered, not enough, not pretty, not knowing my worth. And when my marriage, I would say, quote unquote, crumbled, when my spouse and I physically separated, which was now close to 2 years ago, I just was in a very, very dark place. Struggled with a lot of depression, anxiety. It got so bad as suicidal thoughts. Like it has been a very, very intense road. But ultimately what I really learned about myself is I didn't love myself and I didn't trust myself. So my relationship was very, very toxic. There were patterns that I attracted those types of relationships in my life. And I just have been on a journey ever since to really learn how to step into healthy, to really build a very strong foundation for myself that not only I can teach others, I can live by, and then my boys can see as an example, and now change hopefully their life so that they have a better chance and hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls and things that I experienced.
I love that. It's a shame, isn't it, that we're not actually parented or educated around this sort of theme or topic or anything to do with the relationships or self-love when we're actually growing up as children, isn't it?
Oh, yes. It is one of the things where we learn all the time in school how to do math or how to even draw, but we don't learn the most fundamental parts of it, of how to trust ourselves, how to communicate, how to do all the things that I think actually will build a very healthy, successful person. Like I wish we would talk more about those things.
Yes.
In everywhere, so we can build those foundations, and then the other parts become much easier. When you're able to do those things, money comes easier, right? When you do those things, relationships get better. So I do think we have it a little bit backwards, but we do what we can. Hence why you're here.
Absolutely. And I do think life skills are so important, and it really ought to be massively number one on the curriculum, starting at a very young age.
Yeah. Yes.
So in terms of sharing a little bit about what could you give the audience as examples to what specifically was going on for you and, the lessons learned?
Yeah. So, I didn't recognize it, but in my marriage, it got so bad, and the fact of like me not loving myself, me not trusting myself, is my actual physical appearance looked different. So you can go back on my Facebook profile, because I haven't taken down my profiles from for when. And for all those who, you guys can't see me, but I have red hair, freckled, white skinned girl. And if you would have seen me even 4 or 5 years ago, I had bleach blonde, the fakest, thickest, most fake eyelashes you could ever see. I had them for close to 10 years. I spray tanned every single week. So I just really didn't necessarily accept and love myself and trust that I was enough inherently. And it showed up through a lot of areas. So it showed up through how I looked. It showed up through the decisions I made. I was the most indecisive person you could ever imagine, to the point that I even struggled picking food at restaurants because I was so stressed out. So I didn't notice it back then, but those are some little examples. And then ultimately that carried through the other things. So in relation to not trusting myself and necessarily how to like rebuild that, it sounds silly for people who just love themselves, they know who they are, and they just really have that trust. This is kind of like, okay, seriously, like she sounds a little crazy, right? But for people
Yeah.
who've been where I've been, or who can have this or have the same sense of feeling, then just making the smallest decisions of like, I'm gonna pick this to wear, whether it's good or bad. You pick it, you check in with yourself and see, do I like how I feel or not? If you don't, try again. And those small little tiny decisions, oh, should I get an ear piercing, should I get two, like those little tiny decisions that seem so irrelevant, that's how you really start to build up what you love. It starts to build up your trust. You start to really recognize you're going to sit with yourself and love yourself. And so those, I don't know, and I can give more examples if you're looking, but that kind of just to give of how it showed up in my marriage, and the kind of the small things I did to rebuild that with myself.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable and courageous enough to share that, Jessa. I do highly commend you for speaking your truth, because there is going to be a lot of audience that resonate with what you're saying, and that there's going to be very few that probably think, well, what's she talking about, and it's so easy to love yourself. But for the vast majority of us, we don't know what we don't know until we do.
Exactly. Well said.
So how did you go about learning to trust yourself? What sort of steps did you take, or what were your realizations that that was an issue?
Well, so I don't know. I am spiritual. Some people aren't, some people are, and I've gone through my own journey with God and religion, and I grew up in a very, very strict, disciplined religion. And so because of everything, I've gone through my own journey to the point where I didn't believe in God. I didn't know like universe. I didn't know any of it, right? And I've since come back to, for my own personal thing, is I do believe that there's a God, and I do believe the universe is working in our favor if we allow it to. And but it's still a work in progress, because even it was probably not too long ago, and I help clients with this is what I do, but I still have my own struggles because my own deep rooted things show up when events happen, right? Because I give them meaning and all of that, and we can go into that at different time. But inherently, I said I didn't trust even the universe. I didn't trust God. So then I didn't trust myself, and so it's been a journey. So initially, how I did it in the smallest of ways And now how I'm doing it at a place where, okay, I feel like I can trust myself more on the small things, but now the big things that are so scary that I get to learn to let go and just let come what's meant for me and let go of the things that aren't, it looks a little different. Um, so starting way back when I was learning how to trust myself again, I I just made a conscious decision that I would make up my own mind. So, and I can give you like back when I was married, I would literally send pictures to two of my girlfriends and say, "Is this outfit cute?" I couldn't, I didn't buy clothes because I was always telling myself, no, I don't know what's in style. I don't know what's cute. I'm not creative. And so then I just decided, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to just make up my mind and then I'm going to just sit in it. So my tendency to send a picture, I would catch myself, which even if you do something similar, even if you still send the picture, be super proud of yourself along your journey and your progress, because even the fact that you are aware of the fact that, oh my goodness, I'm doing this, even if at right now you don't change it, that's huge progress. So it will take baby steps. So for me, I just noticed, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pick an outfit and I'm just going to see how I feel. And I'll tell you what, some of the outfits I wear are definitely not in style, but I like them. And so that builds authenticity that allows me to show up in a space of, hey, I trust what I choose and then I'm going to own it, rather than, okay, is this outfit cute? Well, I don't really feel good in this. And then I'm a little insecure and I'm kind of like feeling like a clown when I walk around. And then I don't show up in my authentic self because I'm so in my head.
Absolutely.
So I think so I just really started with the small stuff. And then there were big things. Like I I lived in a really big house. Me and my spouse and my two little boys, but my situation, my spouse was no longer in the state. I was here with my two boys alone, and I knew couldn't keep that house. However, I was so scared to make a decision. So how I built trust with myself is I just decided I'm just going to go look at places that are smaller. And then it built this level of, wow, I have this competency. And then, but I wasn't ready to make a decision, but I had already done all of the work. So then when I made the decision, I can't keep up this house, I can't keep up these payments, I had already done the work. And then I trusted myself to make a decision. So it's just doing the steps. The steps aren't solidified, but you just make a choice and lean on yourself in all the times that you can, big or small, and then just kind of go with it. And you're going to do things that you're like, well, that wasn't right, or oop, that didn't feel good. And that also is working in your favor too, because you start to learn more about yourself.
Yeah, and I think what is being highlighted here that I think the listeners really need to pay attention to is, in order to trust other people and attract other people that you can trust, it starts with trusting yourself first. And that's why we're emphasizing, how important that is to do in the first instant.
Oh, Lynn, you just hit a golden nugget, because to highlight to all of your listeners, that is the most important thing you can do. And it is challenging. It's so challenging, especially like, I'm going to side note, if you've been in a toxic relationship, whether that's a parental relationship, whether that's a sibling, whatever, boss, spouse, there's a lot of things that can happen. Like you get gaslit, you get all of these things, which we're not going to go into right now, but those things make you lose that trust in yourself. And you can kind of see, like, I can even see the breakdown. I was like, I had really good intuition all along the way, but I kept getting told things that made me question myself. And if I would have listened to myself, like my story played out the exact way it was supposed to, right? But if I would have listened to myself back then, I might not have been in the situation I am, even though I do think I'm supposed to be exactly where I'm at, right? But I love that you say that, because when you trust yourself, you start to trust your instincts and your gut and everything that's happening. So if you are around somebody and you think, I don't feel safe here, you listen. whether it's right or not, you listen and you honor yourself, which then goes about building that trust, which then goes about building your self-love. Like, it's all just kind of this beautiful cycle that it allows you. So then it helps you attract healthy people into your life. It helps, like, there's a lot that goes into it. But yes, I do think just I do really love what you say. Like, yes, the theme of trusting yourself really helps you to trust other people too, because when you hear things or notice things or witness things, rather than thinking I'm crazy or I shouldn't be thinking this, you think, I'm actually really smart. And if any of you guys have children, I hope that you're not doing this. And if you are, no judgment, no shame. But for me, I would never sit there and tell my sons, you're crazy, ever. But we tend to do it to ourselves when we get, so it's just really honoring ourselves and saying, okay, yeah, no, you're smart. You're very smart, and I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to trust you. And then it builds this relationship with yourself where you're like, wow, I have my back.
Absolutely. Because we do tend to live up to our own labels, and we're the worst ones sometimes for giving ourselves negative labels. So if you are one of those people that are telling yourself that you're crazy, then obviously that's not going to be a healthy label to adopt going forward to enhance and create better circumstances and relationships for yourself.
Yep. Well, and I even this is a little bit of a side note, but I talked with a client yesterday, and she is in a very toxic relationship, and she was just saying, like, yeah, she was talking about her spouse and some of the behavioral things that he does when he is angry and the things that he wants to do. Like, I'll give an example. Like, it was so extreme, like, oh, I'm gonna burn these things. And I just was like, okay, just a reminder, that's not normal behavior when you're angry. And she's like, yeah, but I just wonder sometimes, like, am I the crazy one? And so it's that exact thing. Like, and I told her, I was like, I'm going to be a sounding board. No, you're not crazy. I think deep down, that that's not normal. But then we tell ourselves these stories, and then we start to really question, right? Rather, if you heard somebody else's, you're like, yeah, that's not really normal. But with ourselves, we get so hard on ourselves. And then we start to lose that, rather than honoring and saying, yeah, okay. Like, and another thing that I would do for self-trust is I would sometimes look at myself in a third person, and that would help. So, like, for example, I would be like, okay, Jess is making a decision on where to eat. This decision does not matter. It has no consequence. So just pick one. It kind of released the pressure of picking the quote unquote right thing or whatever, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of times I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, which is why we don't trust ourselves, because we all want to do the right way, or we want to do it. We want to have the best decision, or we want to make the right decision. And it's like, where ultimately the thing that we get to do is just make the decisions for ourselves. We get to do the things, and then we get to self-reflect. So there's no right or wrong way. And that's where I kind of have stepped into this. It's taken a long time for me to really get here, but you really get to step into this. Like, things are happening the way that they're supposed to, good or bad. It's all teaching you something.
Absolutely.
If you can see it.
And I like what you said, regardless of whether it's the right or the wrong way, or the right or the wrong decision, it doesn't matter, because if it does end up being the wrong decision, you learned something from that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And do you know what's interesting? Hate it. Wish it wasn't like this. But in my experience, you learn more from the messes and the mistakes in life than you ever do from your successes and the wins and the right way of doing it.
Absolutely, we do. And I did have a conversation with somebody who was talking about a female billionaire who said her dad taught her some really great lessons, because they used to sit around the dinner table, and he used to say, what mistakes or failures did you have today? And they'd discuss it. And then he would say, well, what did you learn from it? And it made her grow up knowing that it was okay to make mistakes. It was okay to, experience failure, because she didn't feel it was a negative thing, because she knew it was an opportunity to learn something.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Lynn, that you said that. Thank you for sharing that, because that is so good, because that is true. A lot of times our failures, we take on a lot of shame, and we take on a lot of self-judgment and embarrassment, when in reality, like, if you look at anybody's story, you can look at J.K. Rowling, like, she failed and failed and failed and failed. For anybody, yeah, J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, if any of you don't know that, but it was a failure, 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 failure. She wrote the book on a napkin, right? Like, that's not a successful story. And then look what happened because of it. Or you look at these people who are actors and famous for, they were alcoholics, they were homeless, they were like all these things, right? But so I love that what you said is, if you would have caught them in their lives of maybe then they were 20s or 30s or whatever it is, you might have met them and been like, wow, you're kind of I'm really intentional about my words and how I speak to people. But I know a lot of people might be like, wow, they're kind of messed up. Like, they're kind of a failure, right? But I love that you said she learned, because and here's another key thing, she learned all of these things. It's the weight we give it. So I love that you said she learned that failure was not a negative thing, not something to be ashamed of, but something just to learn from, and just to say, okay, cool, how do I pivot to make this successful? So I really love that you say that, because that is and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this quote, but like, fail faster.
Yeah,
Fail
exactly.
as fast as you can, because you will succeed. But when you get wiped out from that failure and you stay there, that's when we have problems and struggles that we don't necessarily need to have for as long as we do.
Absolutely. And I think it was Thomas Edison that invented the light bulb. And I think he said he had about 10,000 failures before he got it right.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. I've heard that. I don't know exactly if it's the right number, but it sounds close to me. But yeah, that's exactly. If he would have given up, I'm sure we would have still had lights. Somebody else would have invented it, but maybe not, right? Like, maybe it would have been a very different reality for us, but he just kept going. And I wonder how old he was even when he got it right. I don't even know.
I don't
It
know.
wasn't 21, I don't think.
No, but going back to the subject of trust, I think it's so important to, even if you said, like you mentioned in your journey, that, it was being aware sometimes that you'd still make mistakes, even though you had the awareness, but, even catching yourself, knowing that you're doing that same habit is progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to highlight something, just because I can kind of give you an example of learning how to trust myself. So, after my marriage, after we physically separated, I say this and people thought I was joking, but I was not joking. I'm not a cat person, and I'm not into women. However, after that experience, I was very much vowed to either become a cat lady or a lesbian, because I was like, I will never do that again. Right. And over time, after I think it was maybe about the first year and 3 months, I finally was like, okay, maybe I will consider like going on dates and stuff like that. Right. So I ended up going on some dates, and I had an individual who, he fancy car, made a lot of money, took me out to very nice restaurants, kind of rude, kind of an asshole. Okay. But I loved what we were doing, right? Like, I loved getting picked up in a nice car and going to nice restaurants and doing all the things. However, I would self-reflect and go, okay, how do I feel when I'm around him? And I'm like, I don't feel great. I don't like how he talks. I don't like how he does this. And so then I made a decision. Okay, I don't like how I feel. I'm not going to go out with him again. And then he messaged me again, and I decided to go out with him again. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I did it anyways. And then I was like, okay, well, that wasn't good. And then I felt crappy after, right? And then I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not doing that again. I'm trusting myself. Like, and then I did it again. He contacted me again, and I just was like, oh yeah, but I want to do stuff. He always takes me out. And so I went again. And what I started, and I didn't shame myself for that. I just got really curious about what I was doing. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? I like unavailable men. So this is highlighting to me. So now I get to trust myself. I'm not going to respond, and I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to start attracting healthier people. So then I started, and then I put up a boundary and I said, hey, no, sorry. I don't like, this behavior is not okay with me. But thank you for your time or whatever. Anyways, he's reached out since, and I didn't respond. And now, and what's interesting is I have brought in more healthier men into my life. And so I say that because I didn't get it right the first time. I thought something, I didn't honor myself, but it was a lesson, and I didn't judge myself. I didn't get ashamed of myself. I just got really curious of what I was doing and why. And then I got a little stronger, and then I fell back. And then, so I say that because to highlight, this is all such a journey, and you're going to go backwards and forwards. And and how you build that trust and that self-love is, rather than getting hard on yourself and shaming yourself, just get curious. Just be in a space, in a headspace of curiosity rather than self-judgment, because we have enough, especially as women, we have enough judgment going on, right? Like, you look at the tabloids, you look at do people even say tabloids anymore? But I was
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
yeah, guys, like, you look and see what's being told that's beautiful, or how we should dress, how our bodies should look. And so we're constantly being judged. And we can go into whatever your religious background, whether you're a single mom, whether you're not, like, there's a lot of judgment. So the person that we get to be is the most loving and kind to ourselves. So we got to safeguard ourselves and give that to ourselves.
Absolutely. And, it's so important, because by giving back to ourselves and learning to trust ourselves, even being kind to ourselves when we know that we're making mistakes, and, like you say, not viewing it as a means to sort of shame ourselves, but, get curious about, well, why did I just repeat that behavior? And have a conversation with yourself around it, I think is really empowering. And eventually it does lead to you changing your behavior, and subsequently, in changing our behavior, we exude a different energy, and that energy then attracts a different quality person to you.
100%. You said it so beautifully. It's this beautiful cycle. Whichever way it's happening, one feels more painful and hard, but the other one it just brings about a lot of goodness. There's still going to be hard things, but yeah, I love what you said. You're going to exude a different energy about you.
And that comes from, like you said, this conversation has been about trust, but it's also about, loving yourself. And I think a lot of women, well, not just women, all humans, I think, struggle with self-love to some degree. We quite often are not given good role models for how to appreciate ourselves in life, are we?
Oh, no. I think it's unfortunately, it's more rare than it is common. Like, I don't know many people who have said, oh, I had parents who just really loved themselves, who taught me how to love myself. So, and that's no shame on parents, right? Like, we're all going to screw up. I'm going to screw up my kids too, because I'm a human and I'm imperfect. But it's just the fact that they didn't know, they weren't able to teach us. There's books about it now, but, like, yeah, we didn't learn it. We don't have the foundations of it. And I think that's why right now mental health and these podcasts and these YouTube, all of these things they're growing so popular, because people just are stuck in fear. They feel stuck. They're struggling with anxiety and depression, and they don't know how to get away from it, but they want to, because people don't want to be in this pain and this loneliness and this feeling like they have no purpose or they don't belong, right? And so they're drawn to things like your podcast or other things that can kind of help them see light. I am, for sure. I have a lot of coaches in my life that, like, because even coaches have coaches, even therapists have therapists, right? Like, And you're drawn to that because you're drawn to, okay, wait, there's a way out. There's hope.
Yeah.
There's progress here. So yeah, yes.
There's always great value in, having a mentor or a coach or a therapist, a practitioner, whoever that might be, because without, having those people to be a sounding board, to reflect back to you things that could improve your life, you're just going to stay stuck in the same circles and patterns forever.
Yes, and you made a really good point that I kind of want to touch on for your audience, is the fact that you said it helps to really have coaches or your support system. And a lot of times I think that can be one of the biggest struggles. Is one of the things I did when rebuilding myself, and I'm still in the process of rebuilding myself, but one of the things that I did to rebuild myself is I was really intentional about who I allowed in my space, to the point that there's not everybody's welcome in my home. I don't outwardly say that, but I don't bring people to my house, and I've not allowed. I'm very intentional, especially with men. I've let a lot of men have sat on my patio. I've not let them in. But that being said, is I was very intentional about who my quote unquote inner circle was, who I listened to. And this is a challenging thing, but a lot of times the people around us, it could even be our family, it could be some of our closest friends, our whatever coworkers that we hang around. A lot of times they make us question ourselves too. So it is like, I love when you say, that's why I see the value in coaches in certain communities who are of like-minded people, because it provides you with a safe space of people that you can really get vulnerable and lean on. And you know that they have your back of this progression and movement forward, where sometimes there's people in our life where you're like, oh, well, why are you doing that? And you're like, wait, should I not be doing that? Oh, no. And not because they're meaning to do that, it's because they have their own work, right? And some of them are doing it and some of them aren't. But I will say, yeah, so that's been one of my other biggest things is when I trusted myself, I was very careful with who I talked to, who I relied on. Did I think that they were a healthy person? When I told my story to them, use them as backing? And that was painful because I felt like I had to push a lot of people out that I really loved. But I was in such a place that I was like, I really, really need to just get really solid grounding. So I kind of distanced myself from a lot of people. And I just said like, hey, I'm just not in a good headspace, right? And since then, so then it comes back down to boundaries, which we don't need to get into all of that stuff. We can do, you and I could talk for hours, but there's just, yeah, I just think there is a beauty in finding people and finding coaches and friends and whatever therapists that you love, that you can feel safe with. It provides a lot of healing and growth in those spaces.
And on that topic, Jessa, what is the best way that people can reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm Jessa Packard on all social medias, but my biggest one that is the easiest to reach me because I'm the most responsive is Instagram. So JESSA PACKARD. Packard.
Excellent. And finally, any words of wisdom to leave the audience with around the subject of trust, that they can implement now or take on board now to enhance their current situation?
Yeah, I just think just make the decisions. Don't worry about it being the right one or the wrong one. You'll figure it out along the way, but the most important thing is movement and action. Just taking small steps forward and then reevaluating. You can shift, you can pivot, but that's how you're going to learn the most, is by taking the action and seeing what comes about it.
Absolutely. And just being curious and interested in yourself, in how you're and why you're doing something.
Yep, exactly.
So thank you so much, Jessa. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for being, as I say, so open about sharing some of your personal story with the audience. It's been fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And I want all of your audience who has not been told this today, I want to remind you, you are enough and you're amazing and you're so loved.
Thank you. Really appreciate you saying that. So it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.